Yo, what's going on, everybody? This is Mysticall. Blizzard just released, I think, a 43-minute video going over the future of WoW and the UI elements that they want to add to it. And I think at some point they kind of forgot about PvP, but that's okay because that's why I'm bringing you this video. So today I want to go over certain add-ons, certain things that they can add to PvP that I really do feel like could be just like slam dunks for veteran players, new players, because I feel like every season WoW PvP is just like bleeding out, like just slowly. There's each season goes by, there's less players, and I think a huge reason for that is the requirement for add-ons in PvP and just how complex things are. So with that said, let's jump right into the video. All right, starting off, this is an add-on. I think it's more of a feature, but it's right there. Like I feel like it's really possible to do, and that is to auto join voice in starting off with the BG Blitz and Solo Shuffle, and just make it a toggle switch. Listen, I know streamers aren't gonna want it. I know there's toxicity out there, but I really feel like WoW kind of feels lonely. I personally, I've had a lot of my friends quit recently, and I still do threes. You know, I still do shuffle, I still do blitz, but I feel lonely when I'm playing the game, and this is an MMO. So I feel like one thing, especially as a healer, one thing that they could do to kind of help is to make it so you have voice in these solo queues and give it to everybody. You know, make it a switch, go into settings, I don't know, go into options or combat or social, and just have, you know, disable or enable being able to join groups. I mean, it's so easy. It's right there. Blizzard has their own voice. I use it with my brothers. One of my brothers just started playing WoW, and almost daily we join Blizzard voice. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. I think obviously most people just use Discord, but I think if you give people access to in-game voice to auto join, I think people can take advantage of it. I think it's really helpful no matter what rating you are. Next up is an add-on that I really just feel like should be in the game by now, and that is just a built-in DR tracker. So right now, the add-on that I use is Diminish, and this tracks DRs on everybody. So myself, most of the time I just toggle it on myself, but you could also use it on like S Arena, Gladius, even the standard Blizzard UI, I'm pretty sure. But this should be, I feel like, a baseline thing in the game. This should not require an add-on. I think this is one of the easiest things that they can do, because not only is this good for PvP, you also need to pay attention to DRs and PvE. You don't want to get the triple stuns on mobs when you're, you know, 2 seconds away from having a full leg sweep, right? So I would say this could easily be one of the best things that they can add for both PvP and PvE. Adding a DR tracker, especially if it can be added to like nameplates, it'd be so nice. But if they just start out with like the Blizzard arena UI, that arena frame that they added, that's a start, right? They added their own arena frame, which is great, right? It's right here. And if they wanted to add a DR tracker on their own, that'd be amazing. But that's a good place to start. But I feel like down the road, having a built-in DR tracker would be great for the health of the game. Kind of similar to a DR tracker, but an interrupt tracker as well. I think that being able to track interrupts in PvP is crucial for no matter if you're playing a healer, caster, anything. So I think that there should be an interrupt tracker in the game. The next add-on that I think should be added should be BigDebuffs, or I use OmniCD, but they both do the same thing. So on the raid frame, if I just go test, this will show certain things. So this will show, for the BigDebuffs part, it will show things that I can dispel or CC on myself or my teammates that I can easily dispel. But it's also really helpful for awareness for players. So this being baked in would be absolutely amazing. I think this would be helpful because BigDebuffs and OmniCD, they're great add-ons, but they're a little bit complicated. They can be kind of tedious to set up. I know there's profiles out there, but instead of having to deal with that, you could just have a built-in, you know, debuff tracker, which is really, really nice. Again, super helpful for healers, especially if you're just starting out, and it could be a little overwhelming setting up add-ons yourself. And then also really helpful for DPS, because this could show, you know, if a DPS sees I'm in a fear, maybe they will press defensive for once. In addition to seeing debuffs, there's also an add-on that people use called FlyPlateBuffs, or it's also built into OmniCD, and it shows cooldowns over enemy players' nameplates. And this add-on can get a little bit out of hand for sure. Like, you can track a lot, but I think if they minimized how much you could track, it'd be nice, right? So imagine if Blizzard had a built-in, you know, unending resolve, right? If the Warlock presses on unending resolve right above their nameplate, you see it. Just something that's visually easier to see, because I think one hindrance for WoW PvP, especially for the viewer experience, is what's going on, like what is actually going on in the game right now, especially for new players that have never played or have very minimal experience in PvP. The viewer experience is awful, right? Like, sure, a veteran player is going to understand what's going on, but for a new player, you're not going to know what the heck even an ending resolve is. But if you have a very visual, clear way to say like, okay, this teammate or this enemy used a defensive cooldown, so that means they're taking a lot of damage, then you know that maybe they're going to fall behind or they are falling behind. So that now I understand why they pressed it. So I think being able to see defensive cooldowns, I am a little weary on offensive cooldowns because I think it kind of makes it, I don't know, there's like, you don't want to take everything away from all the players, right? So I think being able to visually see enemy defensive cooldowns and not offensive cooldowns is a fair trade-off, because then you're just going to the realm of like Weakaura is tracking everything. But I think being able to visually see that an enemy used a defensive cooldown is a really good place to start for the base UI. The next add-on that I think that they could add to the base UI is OmniCD. And again, this is pretty good for both PvP and PvE. So maybe there's a chance that they'll, put some priority on it. But what this does is this just tracks cooldowns, right? It just tracks cooldowns for your party members and yourself if you want to. I think this is really important. I think this is probably more important than seeing like enemy cooldowns. I'd be fine if they didn't show any enemy cooldowns or anything like that. But I think being able to track your own teammates' cooldowns is really, really crucial, especially if there's no voice in the game, right? Like, how am I supposed to tell if my teammate has trinket available? Like, if let's just say my teammate used trinket, but then I see that the rogue saw a smoke bomb, how am I supposed to know, right, that they have trinket? I mean, I could be paying attention, but there's so much going on in the game. It's not that easy. So I think being able to track your teammates' cooldowns, this is another really, this would be huge, right? I think that if they added this with like a DR tracker and an interrupt tracker, you would probably get rid of most add-ons for WoW PvPers. I think this would be so important and really helpful for players. I touched on it a little bit, but I think there should also be more customization for the arena frames. And I know that they just added this, so I don't want to sound like I'm being needy, but this was a good addition to the game, right? For sure. I think the WoW arena frames are fantastic, but obviously they come short of S Arena and Gladius. So hopefully at some point there's more customization, because I kind of like how my S Arena looks right now, right? S Arena, pretty clean. You could see cast bars like this. You could see DRs. You see trinkets in the spot that you want to do. This is a very clean profile. So I'm kind of hoping that at some point Blizzard kind of takes the wheel with the arena frame and allows us to just customize it a little bit more. That's pretty much it. Nothing too crazy. I don't even think, can you even move anything with the, you can't even move anything, can you? So arena frame settings. Yeah, I don't even think you can change arena frames display. You can display class color. You can see enemy pets, but you can't, you can't like move anything around. Yeah, which is a little unfortunate. So hopefully in the future, because this is a good start, that they add more customization to this, being able to move certain things around like trinkets, the cast bar, stuff like that. But this is a good start, but I'm hoping for more customization in the future. Finally, I think that this would be more of a feature than an add-on, but a WoW PvP sandbox or practice area would be amazing. I think these PvP hubs right here are really good, right? I'm a huge fan of having a PvP area in the major city. Don't get me wrong, it's amazing. But I think PvPers need to have a place where you can test things without risking other people's rating. For example, for me, you know me, I love Weakauras. I'm a huge fan of Weakauras. I help people make Weakauras. I make Weakauras for other people. I love this stuff, right? But the only way for me to get a good grasp of testing it is if I queue up like a skirm, and sometimes that takes 5 to 6 minutes to even pop. And sometimes I want to test something in BGs, and sometimes there's not certain things that are available. So sometimes I queue a blitz, and I'm trying to, at the same time, I don't want to lose people's rating. Or I don't want to lose my rating. I don't want to lose other people's rating. So, but I'm at the same time, I'm trying to practice and test a Weakaura. So I think WoW PvP, they need, first of all, working target dummies to test PvP things. But I think more is I should be able to, how like in PvE, you have follower dungeons, and you can queue up, a dungeon. I think in PvP, you should have like, I don't know what it's called, not a follower dungeon, but a follower, maybe like a little sandbox area. Go to a quick match. They add an option here just for testing / sandbox area. And you could just queue up a map and you could just practice, you can test add-ons. You can practice rotations. It would be awesome if they had like moving target dummies, right? Imagine if these things moved on the ground based on what you could move them, right? Or something like that. and you could test your rotation on them without having to worry about your modifyings being weird. You could test weak auras, right? That, you know, that work in PvP, which would be amazing. You could test, you know, for example, for Mistweaver or for Monk, you could port placement is so important to Monk. You could just test like certain places to put your port. Or if you have a threes team, you could, like, if you're looking at a VOD, you could say, hey, you know, you were positioned here, I was positioned here, and then you put a target dummy, you know, we should have moved to a different position based on where this target dummy was or where the enemy was. You know what I mean? So I just think PvPers need a place where you can queue up either yourself, a teammate, you know, a threes team, and you could just queue in with target dummies everywhere. You could place them down, and you could practice your weak auras, rotation, cooldowns, positioning, anything that you need, right, for new or veteran players. And I think that's another really important thing. Otherwise, you have new players that just joined the game that are queuing up into players with a ton of experience, and they're getting blown away, right? They're getting absolutely crushed. So and they have no other way to practice, right? So that's just my opinion on. I think it'd be such a cool feature. Honestly, it'd be such a fantastic feature for PvP. Finally, there are weak auras, and I know a lot of people are not a fan of weak auras. I actually think I wouldn't be mad if they kind of minimized the ability to track certain cooldowns with weak auras. But one thing I am happy about, and I think that eventually this feature will have success, is what did they just add? The cooldown manager. I actually love this thing. I'm not even kidding. I was messing around with it on my alt, and I have this bar enabled. So if you go into edit mode and you go to cooldown manager, you can I have this one hidden, and I also hide this one because it kind of tracks random things. But I straight up, I have this enabled on my alt, and I've been messing around with it, and I love it. So this is amazing, right? I think that in the future, this will replace most add-ons or most weak auras. For me personally, most of my weak auras are for like personal, just tracking cooldowns, right? So I have this huge, where is it? I have this huge weak aura here that just tracks my, you know, certain cooldowns, certain procs, you know, my Thunder Focus Tea. And if we ever get to the point where Blizzard allows us to track our own cooldowns, or if you're able to add a spell ID, like if I press Thunder Focus Tea and I'm like, oh man, I want to track certain things. I want to track this spell ID or like a certain buff, and they allow us to do that, I think it's going to be so good for PvP, and I cannot wait, right? Because right now it tracks my Vivacious, but it doesn't show like the internal cooldown of it, which is kind of annoying, right? It doesn't show this weak aura shows the internal cooldown, this one doesn't. But if we ever get to the point where you can, you know, set the order yourself, or if you can do certain things with it, and they have specific spells, certain cooldowns in your own order, I think this could replace a lot of weak auras. And then if they minimize what you can track for enemies, I think it's really good. I really like add-ons, but I do feel like they can be somewhat of a nuisance and tedious to set up. And I think the less add-ons that you need to install, the better the game is. I really feel that way. So I'm hoping that with the updates they made in the video for what they were going to do with the cooldown tracker that they added and certain things in the future, that we kind of get to that point where very minimal add-ons need to be installed, especially for PvP, and you can kind of just focus on the game and like the own in-game settings. And that is it for me. I don't know the purpose of this video. I just kind of wanted to get my thoughts out there because I saw that video and I was really excited for WoW PvE. Like if I was a mostly PvE player, I would be excited because they're adding some things to the UI, which is fantastic. I think they want to add DBM timers, which are amazing, and they want to add certain things, not to replace weak auras, but you know, to kind of help new players get into it. So I think that's great, and I think for PvP, adding certain things would just make it so much better, help new players get into the game, make the viewing experience better for everybody, not just veteran players, but also for new players. And I might have missed a feature, so if there's any feature or add-on that you would love to get added to the base UI, I have no pull with Blizzard at all, but I would love to know, of course, because I love add-ons, right? I love add-ons, so I love messing around with them. I've messed around with better Blizz frames every day, ever since I downloaded it. So please let me know your thoughts, and if you have any questions, please let me know. I am more than happy to answer any questions you might have, and that's it for me. Hope everyone has a fantastic rest of your day. Hope you enjoy the video, and I'll see you later.